Hello, my name is Jack Blade and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. Today we are playing some Satisfactory Modeler. And as you can see, I have already set up a bunch of stuff here. Today's video, the topic is actually production. And at the end of this, you should have a general understanding of the quantities of resources and parts you need to finish certain parts of the game. In this video specifically, we'll be talking about the space elevator, raw processing, and parts production, and I will release 2 more videos that handles power generations and build resources specifically. And at the end of that, I will also release the Satisfactory Modeler file so that everyone can come in here and check all of this out. The reason why I'm not doing everything in one go is because we have everything is not ready. I'm still working on some of this stuff. So either way, let's get into this. Alright, so first, these videos is going to take place almost exclusively here in Modeler. And I also want to leave a little bit of a disclaimer. The numbers shown are accurate for the selection of alternate recipes I have made for these plans. The general idea was to use more copper and steel, less screws, and generally make the production lines as simple as possible so that new players don't get lost if they're trying to look ahead. This is without going to I'm Kibit's level of overdoing it. So we're talking about like 1 to 5 machines of every space elevator part. That's what we're looking at here. And it will still be tons and tons of resources required, but a lot less than you might think and what you might have in your head. And like I said, the modeler drives, they will be available in my Google Drive once all 3 videos are released. And that will be in the Google Drive through my Discord. So you can find that in the description and everything. And if you want more of these kinds of videos where we go through this stuff, make sure to show up and subscribe, comment. Tell me what you would like more details of. If you have ideas and thoughts and everything, put them down below. And let's just dive into this. I really want to see where we can drive this and how much this can help people, because a lot of people have asked for this specifically. Okay, so this is where we start. Generally, I split all of factory planning into 4 separate categories. The raw processing being number 1. And these 3 are all split up between the different ones. So they have layers too. These are onions, these are ogres. Shrek would be proud. And Donkey would be confused. And then I have the space elevator parts production. That is its own separate factory planning. And then I have power generation, which is its own separate, and then building resources, what we use to actually build our factories as a 3rd or 4th and final type. Now, space elevator parts, which we're looking at today, we'll be focusing on, they have dedicated production. You don't overlap that and take away from it to use with any other. However, if we start looking, we're going to look from the end of this line. We're going to go in here and start looking at this. We start looking at the end of the line, and we will notice that if you look closely, like we can go all the way down here to phase 5, that they are kind of built on each other. And the reason for this is I want you, if you want to use this plan, to be able to be a new player and look at this and go like, okay, I can do this. And then you can start with phase 1, you can then jump and I can build phase 2. If you want to use my plan specifically, go right ahead. If you want to tweak it, and if you want to add stuff in or whatever, go right ahead. Or you want to increase or decrease numbers, also go right ahead. Just be warned, especially when it comes to phase 4 and phase 5. I have pushed Satisfactory Modeler to its limits when it comes to calculating the production lines here. So if you change anything and you don't have a beefy computer, you're going to have a computer that struggles, okay? I don't have a beefy computer, and some of the calculations could take like 4 or 5 minutes before they finished here, okay? So I just want to warn you guys. Now, so we go into this. We check out phase 1. It's a very simple, we're not like, this isn't anything complex. We are bringing in a little bit of iron that we split up between a few different lines here. We will make some iron plates. We make some wire, not screws. We make more iron rods, and we make a little bit of screws here. And the reason why I have chosen to do this is to lower the screws usage specifically for the reinforced iron plates. So that we are making 10 reinforced iron plates using the stitched, what is it called? What is the recipe? Let's hover over here. Stitched iron plate is the alternate recipe over here. And the reason for this is quite simple. I want to remove screws as fast as possible. And this is a recipe. Stitched iron plates, if we look at it, is available in tier 2-1. So the second you unlock the assemblers, which gives you the access to all of this stuff, it will also give you the alternate recipe stitched iron plate to use. I've also used the alternate recipe cast screws over here, which once again is available in tier 0, as in when you finish the tutorial this is unlocked. No, you don't have to unlock anything, just finish the tutorial and cast screws will be available. And those two alternate recipes together making 10 reinforced iron plates and 10 rotors incredibly simple. And then if we check here, if we go out, the way that I've done this is that you can see how much iron and how much copper you need to be able to do this. And then following that, you go down here and it says like, okay, we need 5 machines. Okay, 5 machines makes 2 smart plating each, makes 10 of these, and I have set them to go to sync here. Basically, that is to force the production chain to actually happen. This is a great way, in my opinion, to just see how much you're actually producing if you're building from the resource and not the other way around. I have just done this as like a finishing off kind of thing, because when you are not putting these into a space elevator or like chaining it down the line to a more advanced production line, they should be going into one of these so that you get a bunch of points. Now, when we move from there to phase 2, it's not so much that you need to remove this as much as you need to add this. So when you are in phase 2, you need a few of these smart plates. You need a few of them, but you're also going to need versatile frameworks and automated wiring. So you just add the phase 2 production. And if we go in here and take a look, very simple. Or it looks more advanced than it is here. Like, I promise, it's not this difficult. The commas and everything, they're gonna like balance themselves out if you run the steel. Like, you split them up, of course. With the at this point, you could have access to a Mark III belt, so 270 per minute. So you could split this up, looking at this, into 2 belts that you then put into manifolds going into each, because they will balance out when they fill up and blah blah blah. Like, it's incredibly simple. Ignore the fact that there's commas and everything. They will balance out by themselves. So don't worry about that. In terms of alternate recipes in here, we keep using the stitched iron frame. We are also using the solid steel cast plate The steel cast plate is what we're using here to make our iron plates. And the reason for this is I want less machines and less power used. And this means that it's easier for us to run on the first level of power production for longer with less machines in use. That's a very, very easy thing like to keep in mind, that you can wait with building coal power and stuff like that until a little bit later. And that means we also got an alternate recipe here called fused wire, which uses Caterium, which is unlocked in the MAM. And then we're using the steel rod alternate recipe over here. We're using the molded beam and molded steel pipe. So you are going to need a fair few hard drives to build this specific factory. And let's see, what do we have when we go down here? It's a normal modular frame being made. And we have a cable being made, normal cable. And then we have stators being made. and they go from here. Okay, so these are the number of machines. You can like literally put out one machine and then underclock the second machine to 39% and it will work. Underclock the fourth machine to 33% and it will work. Underclock the seventh machine to 72%. Like it's as easy as that. And it will result in us producing 150 steel beam, 12.5 modular frames, 200 cable, and 10 stators, which subsequently is split up here. And as you can see, it goes in and produces us 25 versatile framework and 10 automated wiring. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now, let me be clear when it comes to these first. Before I start building any of these lines, before I ever even start the starter factory, there are certain things I always unlock. And I unlock them by using like handcrafting, I unlock them by using the doggos, like the lizard doggos, and I unlock them by using the loot from the crash sites where you find the hard drives. And I always unlock foundations. I always unlock the MAM. I always unlock chainsaw and solid biofuel. They are the same node. Mark II belts, mergers, splitters, and the conveyor lifts. They need to be unlocked. And in the MAM, you have to unlock overclocking, because from the get-go, we are using underclocking to save on power here. Let's move into phase 3. And this is where we start getting, like, this is where you have a choice to make. Here, in phase 1 and phase 2, this is essentially like one factory that you can build on one spot, easy enough. However, you can choose here. Do you want to build an entirely new factory for phase 3? Or do you want to upgrade this into phase 3? Because phase 3 introduces something fun here. So if we go in here and look, welcome to the network, the matrix here. Okay, so a lot of stuff is happening here. But what I want you to pay attention to is this. We are already producing 10 of these, right? We need 10 of these. I have just switched how we produce them into being produced by the manufacturer. And that might be me jumping the gun, actually, because that is not unlocked until tier 4, and the same thing goes for this automated wiring recipe. No, you should be getting that here. My mistake. You should be getting, if I see here, tier 6. Yes, so that is in the that is in phase 3. That is correct. Okay, so this works. My brain just got deep fried there for a second. Okay, so if we look here, we are producing some computers, heavy modular frames. We need high-speed connectors, which are unlocking the MAM. We are using alternate recipes all over the place. Automated speed wiring here and plastics, smart plating to reduce the number of machines we're using and therefore save space and make it easier. So you are technically upgrading a bunch of the production from before. The main thing here is that you can remove, for now, or leave it for later, because you're gonna need it later, the versatile framework and the automated wiring production that you have. Because right now, all we want to produce, you can see here, we are already producing, we need 25 automated wiring and we need 10 smart plating for what we're doing. So you can basically just go like, okay, versatile frameworks, you can chill a little bit, but you need to upgrade this to 25. So you have another, what would that be? It would be 6, so it would be 10 here, yep. So that is what you would need. You would need 10 of these. Or in my case, I think I'm using an alternate recipe for automated speed wiring, yes. So I'm using the manufacturer, I'm using 3.3 machines instead, or 3.33 recurring, to make 25. Less machines and more abundant resources. Once again, I want to move things away from screws. I want to move things to be made by wires and copper and like that kind of stuff and steel. So you will see a lot of the resources, it's pretty heavy on the steel and copper and quite low on the normal iron and quite low on deuterium. We're using very little plastic and rubber for this production line. And we're starting to introduce some water. You can see here the raw resources. This is what you would need to produce, which we'll be looking at in a minute. But yeah, like essentially you can choose, do I want an entirely new factory for these, for like phase 3, where I am producing I don't even think I have all the things here. I think I've missed something. Yes, I have completely missed one part here. I'm going to have to remake this a little bit. Give me a second. Okay, no, it was me being silly. I somehow didn't see the adaptive control unit. But we're making 5 of these, and we're making 5 of the modular engine, and then it's going to be needing, I think it's 500 of the versatile framework. So essentially, this will also be needing this, plus that you need to upgrade these. So essentially, this is like either an entirely new factory where you also then need to produce this, or technically you're already producing it, or you upgrade your old phase 1, phase 2 factory to phase 3. And then we do the same thing for phase 4, where you can see we are now going into quite the advanced stuff, and we are looking at nuclear pasta, thermal propulsion rockets, magnetic field generators, and assembly director systems. And once again, we're going for 5 machines per, which are producing 2.5, 5, and 3.75. And here's where I'm also going to simplify it a lot for you guys. If you are newer to this, then I'm going to teach you a very good way to plan your factories when it comes to this stuff, to make it simple for yourself. All right. Let's split this up. Step 7 is the most advanced stuff you're going to build. Before then is step 6. This contains things that are used in step 7 or later. Step 5 are producing things that are used in step 6 or later, and so on and so forth. So if we look at this, if we actually pull these out step by step and we look at what we're producing in each line, I'm just going to pull them down a little bit here so it's easier to see. All right. If we look at this, you can see that what we're producing here is quite simple. If we go into step number 1, it is quite simple. Like there's a line of stuff we're producing, nothing more, nothing less. And you just go through and you make this amount of machines, this amount of machines, and this amount of machines, and so forth, so on and so forth, with these specific recipes, with the steel cast plate, the steamed copper sheets, fused wire, molded steel pipe, fused quick wire, molded beam, copper powder. This is going to be the most like copper heavy thing you're doing in the game. And then you have aluminium casing, which goes into making an aluminium loop and everything. Once again, I've tried to simplify that as much as possible when I've set this up for you guys. But generally, this means you have everything you need right here for step 1. And then from here, if we go to the next one, they're using either raw resources coming straight from our raw processing, or it is using the step 1 resources. It does not use step 3, it does not use other step 2 resources. It's all here, okay? And the reason for this is to make it simple, so that you know, when I'm building, what do I need to build first? You need to build step 1 first. And then you go and you build step 2. And then you move on and you build step 3 up here. Okay, let's switch positions for you guys here, right? So in step 3, you can see that we can bring in quick wire, we can bring in the circuit boards, the rotors, the stators, cable, AI limiters, and like we can bring in all of this. Boom, right here, no problem. And as a result, we're producing the smart plating, we're producing modular frames, the electromagnetic control rods, the high-speed connectors, crystal oscillators, and the motors. And then that is just its own, like a single line like this. And the same thing goes for the next one, right? So we can go here, we can go all the way up, and we look at this one that needs the most. This is the biggest one, right? It needs the most different resources. Well, guess what? When you open it, it's still just one line of machines. And you can also see here, and this is very important, some of these machines have changed clock speed to achieve things. So I basically like changed the clock speed so that you have all the machines in this line clocked to 71.111%, and you will get the like amount that you need to make 7.5. Like, you will get the right number out, basically. And that is essentially what I've been doing here. Same thing with the computers, using an alternate recipe over here. We're using an alternate recipe for this one. Yeah, we're using a lot of alternate recipes. So essentially, and this is the step 4. Like, I'm assuming you've unlocked everything at this point, that you can just zoom around the world on trains and hover packs and jetpacks and like all that kind of stuff. I'm assuming you're owning the world at this point. And then we go to step 5, quite simple. Like when we open here, it's making quite advanced resources, right? And step 5 is just like the supercomputers. I think that's the one, yep. Adaptive control units and the radio control units. Step 6 is making the heavy modular frames. The fused modular frames, I think, is the name for them. Yeah, fused modular frames, and they are making the turbo motors. Once again, turbo motors is underclocked, so it's clocked. So the 5 machines here are all clocked to 53.333% to create 1 turbo motor each evenly. And then we have the final step here in this line being step 7, right? Which is just one thing, because there's only a single thing that is made using like the resources that is made from here, like the fused modular frames and that stuff. And that is this one. That is the, what is it called? Pressure conversion cube. So essentially, it has like been set up so that it is quite simple for you to go and build one line of machines at a time, and then keep connecting forwards in that line as things advances. And you can see, like, I haven't gone from like where do you unlock these things. I have gone from where in the production chain are they? How far removed from the raw resources are they? So these ones only use raw resources, right? And then in the second step, I'm using some stuff that use raw resources, but they also use step 1 resources. That's why they're step 2, because they are one step ahead of the step 1 resources. And then so forth, all the way down the line until we get here. And then we go from there, and you can see, like, this is the target production, and we can see that that's what we have, right? So if we look at the numbers, 7.5, blah, 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 like it's all lining up, right? And then that all comes out here, is split down to 5 assemblers, 5 manufacturers, and 5 particle accelerators to then create our elevator parts. Once again, we don't need the past ones. So you can choose, do I want to build an entirely separate factory for this? Or do I want to build like an upgrade where this stuff is part of the new production? And if you do that, some stuff is changed, or some recipes have changed, like to balance out the resources. You can see once again, I am pushing steel hard. I am pushing copper even harder, right? That's because we have a ton of coal, we have a ton of iron, and we have a ton of copper on the map. So this is a simple way of utilizing our abundant resources more. I can also see that I have no idea why, but there's two intakes for what's it called? Concrete. That shouldn't be the case. So let's see here. If I just go bye-bye for you. I delete, and I look, that's the node that needs to be connected to the other one. So you need to be connected here instead. There we go. And there's another set of concrete over there. Boom. Is there any other concrete? Doesn't seem like it. Okay, so this is correct. Yep. And now we have phase 5, which is once again just a massive upgrade to what we're already doing. However, here's also where we have a single complication, if you want to call it that. All right, and that complication is some byproducts. When you produce these crystal oscillators or super precision oscillators, the problem is that you also produce dark matter residue. It's not that big of a problem because you also need dark matter residue to create these. Where are you? Where are you hiding? Over here. Because you also need them to create these, the dark matter crystals. And you need a bunch of them. You need 430. So the byproducts you just loop back in here, and then from here they are looped, or from there, and they're also supplemented with a more dark matter residue coming from the resource, raw processing, right? But generally, we're looking at exactly the same process as before. Nothing new, nothing surprising. I just haven't connected up all of the raw resources out, apparently. There we go. That's awkward. That might be reflected over in the resource processing, actually. So that is something I gotta take a look at. But yeah, generally, if it is directly from a raw resource, that is in raw, if it's from a miner, it goes into raw resource processing. Then from raw resource processing, it goes into the production that I wanted to go into. And in this case, phase 5, this is only space elevator parts. This has nothing to do with buildables. This is no resources that you need. This is the resources that you need to produce the final parts in the game, right? And let's just put it like this. If you have this amount of resources going into a factory in the earlier game, if you have that over here, you're going to be able to produce everything from phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and then, of course, phase 5. That's the thing. So if you want to, early game prep, let's say that you have just unlocked the refineries, and you've gotten wet concrete, you've gotten the pure ingot recipes, including pure copper, then what you can do early on is go in and say, hey, I know that I'm going to need almost 6,000 copper for just the phase 5 stuff. So I'm going to make a factory that refines that, and that is going to be dedicated to this. It's just going to wait until I get there, and until then it's going to be used over here when I need it, and it's going to be used over here when I need it, and so on and so forth. This is where you unlock the refineries, right? So then it's down to you, but these are the actual numbers of raw resources that you need to have processed into these kinds of ingots. If you look at this, excited photonic matter, this is the basic water that goes into the factory, dark matter residue, nitrogen gas, deuterium ingot, iron ingot, steel ingot, aluminum ingot, reanimated sand, diamonds, concrete, silica, rubber, quartz crystal, copper, and plastic. If you have this amount, you can finish the game. Yay! If you have this dedicated to the stuff, you can finish the game. And no one's going to be able to stop you. And that is if you use this plan specifically. Once again, the numbers can be completely different if it is something else, or if you're using different alternate recipes than what is in this plan. Let's go from here and start looking at raw processing. Now that we're here, you can see that I have already, once again, I need to double check that one, so I can just go here and check and say, hey, what's the actual 1540.1, right? And then I can go in and see here, and it is 500 too low. So we will get to that later. I will fix that before it is uploaded so the numbers are actually accurate. But yeah, now you know that. So if you want to do this before this is available, you can still like adapt that number to 1541. Now let's see here. So in phase 1, quite simple. I'm like, this is what you have unlocked, right? You have normal recipes. There's nothing weird. Like, what are you gonna do? This is how much you need to mine of iron, of copper, and this is then what you get. And I haven't typed up the number of machines here. I'm gonna be typing machines in pretty much every space, but sometimes I have to type a number for the calculation to go through. I have no idea why. I'm assuming that is a quirk of the game or the Unsatisfactory modeler. But 162.48 iron, 33 copper. Like, that's not difficult, right? It's a few like miners, it's a few smelters. Like, that's perhaps even only one miner. That's at least 2 miners. And then we go into phase 2, where it starts becoming a little bit more intricate, where we will be looking at using solid steel ingots, the alternate recipe that uses iron ingots and coal instead of using iron ore and coal. And the reason for this, quite simply, is to make it a little bit more efficient. Now, what I've also done, quite simply, is like Caterium. We are using the one normal copper like recipe. Haven't done anything weird here. Same thing here. We're using the simple. Like, there's a lot of limestone needed to make the what's it called? To make the 284 concrete. That's the word. I don't have no idea why that escaped me. But having this set up and having that being produced is going to be a big boon later on, especially if you are not using this constantly and you want to divert it to like buildables, like building production, because you use a lot of concrete when you build. And then let's see, window phase 1, phase 2, they are done, right? And then phase 3, here's where we start getting complicated, because now we're adding the liquids, right? Now we're adding the plastic and rubber. So it starts becoming a little bit more finicky to figure out the right amounts. But if we look at what we have here, we got wet concrete suddenly, so now we need a lot less limestone to make a lot more. And that's kind of what I mean. Like, you can just switch out your old like normal constructors making concrete into refineries using a little bit of water instead. And same thing here. We do get a bunch of this, the petroleum coke. In this, I have just decided to sink it. However, what you can do, like, there are parts later on that will 100% require a petroleum coke. And at that point, you can just take from here, right? So that's going to help a lot. Okay, I moved something there. I wasn't supposed to. Did I just make... I think I moved a line there. That wasn't... Okay, well, it's there now. And regardless, we are producing everything that we need to make phase 3. So you can go in here and literally just go like, okay, I need the resources for phase 3. So I can see here how much ore I need of each kind, how much water, how much oil, how much quartz, like all that is just here. And then this will, with the recipes that I've put in, be using, like making this much. Phase 4, now we start getting into the really complicated, like late game stuff, right? So we're looking at a similar setup as phase 3. The quantities are just a lot higher, plus we have nitrogen gas being introduced as another gas that we need to produce certain things. So yeah, on top of that, we will also be looking at having to make a lot more rubber and plastic, but we are once again focusing on our abundant resources. It's copper, we have some steel, we have concrete being made, and stuff like that. But on top of that, we also have something that is introduced here is aluminium, and that requires its own loop. So if we look at that loop, if I pull that down here so you guys can see it better, right? And you can see we get as a byproduct on purpose a little bit of silica here. And that is being split. Like, we don't need the full 618 in this phase, but basically it didn't let me split the way that I wanted to, so I just left it as is. But essentially, what's not being used, like in the phase 4 space elevator parts production, is just being sunk. And same thing here, we're just sinking this, we're just sinking the polymer resin to make sure that that gets out of the way so that our heavy oil residue can flow and make the because we need the petroleum coke this time. This time we need a lot of petroleum coke. As you can see, we need 1270 going up because now we're making steel with coke steel, the coke steel recipe, because that is incredibly efficient. And we're also going down here and we are using petroleum coke in the electrode aluminium scrap recipe to be extra efficient with this. Because we want to save a lot of this for later, for like buildables and stuff like that. And it's also making sure that you have enough bauxite to make all your aluminium and stuff. But generally, you have your loops here, and like if you're not confident with your loops, like with your fluid dynamics, don't do this. Then what you should do instead is take this, right, and clear that connection, and instead put that, where are you, into here. Boom. So instead you put that in to make the water, or to make the where did I put you wrong this time? I think I did. I put you wrong. Clear connection. The water should be going into up there. There you are. Ba-ba-da-ba. There. And the reason for this, if I clear that connection and say you go to a priority splitter, and yeah, I might as well say like, hey, all of it goes there. Like, just make more. Regardless, like get that out, and then increase so that you get the water that you need to. Okay, it's doing a thing here. Regardless, don't make a loop here. If you're not confident in this, don't make a loop here. Okay? Don't do that. It's just going to hurt you. You don't want it. It's going to just mess up everything for you. So the best thing that I can say on that is just make life simpler for yourself and make wet concrete out of it, or package the water and sink it. I don't care, but don't mess it up for yourself. And generally that's going to make it a lot easier for you. And then if we go back and we check phase 5, we're going into like everything is going to be really, really complex here. And out of everything here, it's like there's nothing weird. It's just like, okay, this is the amount of water you need, the amount of resources, blah de blah. Like nothing weird. You can just look through this. You can pause the video and look at any of these numbers whenever you want to. Now, the one that I want to bring attention to is over here. It is this. There's not a lot of SAM on the map. And you're going to need a lot to make this space elevator part. I highly recommend, personally, that when you are done, with the like project assembly, when you have made the space elevator part and sent it out, I would recommend discontinuing this. Like, you can still make the SAM, like the reanimated SAM and everything, but the reason why is because there is a very little SAM on the map, and if you want to use it for anything else, like this is, if I remember correctly, that's almost half of what's on the map. I don't remember exactly how much is on the map, but I think it's like 12,000. I think this is maybe like a third of what's on the map, something like that. Either way, it's a lot. So once you've made the space elevator parts, shut it down and like divert that production elsewhere. Because if we look at this, like you need some of it to make the fixonium ingot or fixite ingot and fixite trigons. So you need some of it for other stuff, right? But regardless, if we look at this, if I open here, you can see that this is maxed clock speed, and we're summer slooping this to make sure that we need fewer machines. And the reason for fewer machines is we need fewer summer sloops, right? We need 13 summer sloops for this. I can achieve exactly the same results, right, if I do this, but I would need 31 summer sloops. So if I go 250 here, boom, it's max overclocked, I need 13 summer sloops. It's a lot easier to double that production and make sure that I get the number out. And the reason why I summer sloop it is because otherwise, if I go like this, suddenly we are producing way less reanimated SAM, and that's not the case. Like, we need all of this so that we make the 3050 of this that we need to make the dark matter crystals. So this is like a weird thing, but you do need it. And once again, remember, we need a nitrogen gas is also in here. And we have a lot of diamonds being made here. Like, if we look at here and look at what is like new resources that are being used, we're looking at the reanimated SAM, we're looking at the diamonds, but we're also looking at excited photonic matter. So if we take an easy look at the excited photonic matter, that is freely made, no inputs needed, you just need converters. So if you have a few converters set up, you can just make excited photonic matter from that you will need in your processing later or in your production lines later. So yeah, really good. And then we have the water, there's the nitric gas, and there's the dark matter residue. Diamonds down here, I have actually chosen to use 2 different recipes. One of them is the standard diamond, that's 2.51, all right? And then the second one is this. It is petroleum diamonds that uses petroleum coke, and the reason for that is so that up here, where are you? Yeah, here. We are using a ton, we're getting a ton of petroleum coke on purpose because that's what we're using for our coke steels or coke steel ingots. We're also getting a ton of it from here, like heavy oil residue specifically, from making our rubber. We need almost 1,300 of that and almost 600 plastic that makes heavy oil residue. And that makes a lot of what's it called? Petroleum coke. Apparently it makes 4,660. And I split that up, make steel out of it, and then I've gone down here and I basically said, okay, then let's also make that into our petroleum coke stuff, like the electro aluminium scrap. And I still had a bunch left, so I was like, okay, let's take the leftover and just make diamonds out of it. And then we have the normal diamonds over here to supplement, because we need almost 200 per minute for what we're doing. And then we are looking at the coal. We're looking at limestone. Like, you can see the numbers quite simply, like astounding how much you're going to need to finish the game. Like, it's less than you would think. Like, you're going to need less than 1,000 iron. Like, there are places on the map at this point in the game where you can get that from 4 nodes, right, in one place on the map. So you're not going to need a lot of that. And ultimately, the biggest number out of all of these is going to be how much water you need, because a lot of this uses the pure recipes, and some of this water goes also all the way over into your factory and isn't used over here. Either way, that is the setup. I'm just going to go through here quickly so you can see the numbers again. This is going to be what you need for these production numbers. And I do think that I have set this up nicely so that you can build from this, even if you don't want to use my raw processing stuff, that you have your own raw processing stuff. If you hit these numbers, you are well on your way. Even if you need to adapt, or you overproduce somewhere or underproduce somewhere else, you just adjust your recipes a little bit, you adjust your productions and stuff like that, but you have a rough estimate of the resources that you need to bring in for your space elevator parts production specifically. And also, pro tip here for the end: if you want the end game level, what's it called? The end game level sync, the end game level sync points. If you are in here, let's go in here, because it's set on my left side here, current outpost and below. If you click this book here, you can close that and open that. Okay, so I will then add here, and I will say, okay, output sync points. What do we have here? And if that's the unused, where is that? Where can I see the actual... Okay, there's nothing being sunk here, that's why. Okay, so if we go here and go and look here, if we look at ballistic warp drives, for example, AI expansion servers, the last ones here, you will be making 14 million points. That's 26.5 million points. The biochemical sculptor, that's what? That's on 28.5 million points. And then you will also need this. So in the last one, you will need this as well. So then you will also be looking at the nuclear pasta. That's another 1.3 million. So you will if you let this run for a little bit and don't remove the photonic dark matter residue production and stuff like that, and you let this run for a while, and you just sync it because you have already sent the space elevator, you will probably reach the gold nugget thing. You will have your 1,000 tickets to get the gold nugget or gold nut. So not bad. And if you decide to split everything up, the total points produced, first of all, the resources that you will need is going to be insane. Okay, let's look at this. This is the actual resources you will be needing. The total, if you build all of this. So 10,000 copper ingot, 3,759 steel ingots, 3,467.01 concrete, 3,096 aluminium ingots. You will need the 3,050 dark matter residue, 2,722 silica, 2,052 rubber. What more do we have here? You will need the 1,750 excited photonic matter, 1,608 water, 1,215 nitrogen gas, 1,080 quartz crystal. You will need 761 plastic, 549 deuterium ingots. Let's see, iron ingots, you will need 413 and a half. Reanimated SAM, 333 here. Remember, over in the raw processing, you need a lot more. Alclad aluminium sheet, that's later. You need almost 200 diamonds per minute, which uses a lot of coal and stuff like that. there is a chance or a risk that if you try to build all of these separate so that you are producing all of them at the same time, that there's simply not enough of some of the resources on the map. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think you should be fine. I think you should be able to. But I have never tried, so I don't know. The Let's Play that I did, the Ultimate Let's Play, is the first time I tried to do that. Which I will be streaming tonight, by the way. So this video goes live, and then like a little while later, I will be streaming. So if you're up for that, after you watch this video, you are welcome to join. But this is the numbers as I have like calculated them using Satisfactory Modeler, so that you, if you want to, can follow. And in the next video, we will be looking at the power generation, raw processing, and the power generation, like what numbers of power do you get in each phase, and so on and so forth, and like where do you add the like alien augmenters and stuff like that. We'll be looking at that, but for now, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. If you did like this video, make sure to show that with a thumbs up. Comment any comments, thoughts you do have, if you have questions. And if you have, like, first of all, if you're gonna comment on my lack of efficiency, like the wrong recipes picked or whatever, I haven't gone for the most efficient layout or recipes. I have gone for the layout that I felt was more approachable by a first-time player. That is my entire goal. It has nothing to do with how to utilize the map's resources in the absolute most efficient way, because you will not be using the entire map's worth of resources. And I can very simply prove that by simply bringing up how much resources is on the map. So I'm going to bring up the Satisfactory calculator here very quickly. Boom. So if we look on the actual map, I am going to make this nice and big. So if we look at the actual resources on the map, none of this is anything you would run out of. Sam would be the closest one, but you're not going to. So you're going to be fine. No problem. Ignore the water. You can get infinite water. Like, you can have 200,000 water because you can pick that up. This is just what you can get from the wells. But yeah, like, you're gonna have absolutely no problem getting like whatever you want from this. So like, you're not gonna run out of resources. So with that said, I thank you so much for being here. I love you guys, and see you in the next video or in the stream. Have a good one. Bye.